Prevention of evolution. I'll, no- I'll never look at my shiny Eevee the same way again. It started only a few days ago. I was on the internet looking for action replay codes. I really wanted one for either a shiny Eevee or a shiny Vulpix. Then I found one for that shiny Eevee I wanted so much. The code was long, but I was willing to take the time to put it in. It took about 15 minutes to put the code in, but I was so excited to get the code into action. I started my silver game up with the code on. I clicked on continue and my previous save file data came up. I was saved right in front of the Pokemon Center. I rushed into the place with my Typhlosion following behind me. I went to the PC and pressed A. Claus booted up the PC. I clicked on A on Bill's PC. Pokemon Storage System activated. I pressed the L and R buttons and moved to box 5, where a shiny Eevee was supposed to come up. I moved the cursor over to the Eevee. It was named E, and it was at level 1. Its moves were Tackle, Growl, Sand Attack, and Swift. I took up my level 1 Giratina from my party and put it in the first box of the PC. Afterwards, I put E in my party. I wanted to trade it onto my Heart Gold's version, since it was the one I always played on. I got out my other DS and popped Heart Gold into it. I turned it on and continued. Once both my players were in the Union Room, I started the trade. I traded a Cubone with my Soul Silver in return for E. Once the Pokemon were traded onto the separate versions, I made both players leave the Union Room and saved, one at a time. Once turning off the system Soul Silver was in, I went to play Heart Gold. I wanted to clone E so I could get the rest of the evolutions. I wonder if I have a Thunderstone, I wondered to myself as I opened my character's bag. The only evolution stone I had was a Water Stone. Vaporeon will do, I guess. I clicked A on the Water Stone and clicked on E. I watched as the Eevee evolved into a pink Vaporeon. Once the evolution process was done, I saved the game and turned it off, as it was time for me to go home. Several days passed. I had gotten all the shiny evolutions except for Flareon, but that didn't matter to me. I'd get it later. I wanted to get Eve back onto my Soul Silver. I got my DS and popped it into my Action Replay DSi along with Soul Silver. Once the code listed, I clicked on the shiny Eevee code and started up the game. I clicked continue on as soon as the option came up. I was saved in the Pokemon Center this time. I ran over to the PC. Claus booted up the PC. I clicked A on Bill's PC. Pokemon Storage System activated. I was already in box 5. I moved to box 6 and held down the L and R buttons. I moved back to box 5. Instead of an Eevee icon in the box, there was an egg icon. I moved my cursor onto it. It was a bad egg. I moved the egg to the side of the box and tried again. Another bad egg. I moved this egg to the bottom and tried for a third time. This time, E appeared in the box. I moved E back into my party. I wanted to train it. I disregarded the fact that I had 2 bad eggs in my PC box, and I loaded up the PC. I ran out of the Pokemon Center to train E. I had the max XP code on, so this would be easy. After flying to Goldenrod City on my Ho-Oh, I ran out of the city knowing that I'd sneak past some trainers. Once a trainer had spotted me, I sent out E. The opposing trainer sent out a level 10 Diglett. I returned E and sent out my trusty Typhlosion. After the foe's Diglett attacked, I selected Typhlosion's command. This wouldn't be hard at all for him, since he was at level 100. I selected Slash. Typhlosion used Slash. Foe Diglett fainted. I held down the R button so E would gain max experience points. E grew to level 2. E grew to level 3. This went on until E grew to level 37. Trainer is about to send out Zubat. Will Claus change Pokemon? I selected yes and sent out E. Go E. Trainer sent out Zubat. I selected the fight command, then chose Swift. E used Swift. Foe Zubat died. There, Zubat died? I questioned. I shook my head and ignored it. Although, through my confusion, I'd forgotten to hold down the R button to get the max XP for my Eevee. Trainer is about to send out Diglett. Will Claus switch Pokemon? I selected no this time. Trainer sent out Diglett. What will E do? I selected the fight option, then chose Swift again. E used Swift. Foe's Diglett died. Again, the Pokemon had died. Even though this still confused me, I remembered to hold down the R button. E grew to level 38. E grew to level 39. E grew to level 40. This continued until E reached a level 52. The opposing trainer didn't do anything after I beat him. Before the screen went back to the overworld, I got the evolution screen and E was on there. What? E is evolving. The animation started to show. It was trying to evolve into Espeon. I clicked the B button since I already had a shiny Espeon. What? Eevee stopped evolving. I noticed that E seemed to be angry. I ignored it and go on training it. After about 5 minutes or so, E was trying to evolve into Espeon again. I pressed the B button again, and E seemed even angrier at me. I was once again in the overworld. Before I could do anything, my trainer faced E, and an angry icon appeared over the shiny Eevee's head. Eevee wants to evolve into Espeon. Yes or no options came up. Being that I didn't want it to evolve into Espeon, I clicked no. The angry icon appeared over E's head again, and the small sprite jumped up and down as if it was throwing a tantrum. E wants to evolve. Another yes or no option came up. I clicked no again. E didn't do anything this time. I opened my party and noticed all my Pokemon were now bad eggs, except for E. I clicked on E, then on Summary. E's sprite had an evil-looking smirk on his face and red eyes. I was starting to get tired of this. I went to a Pokemon Center and went to the PC. Claus booted up the PC. I clicked on A on Bill's PC. Pokemon storage system activated. I selected E, and then I clicked on release. E won't leave without a fight. Suddenly, I'm dragged into a random encounter. E wants to fight. Go Typhlosion. There were two things I noticed here. The first thing was that I suddenly had my Typhlosion back. The second thing was that both E's and Typhlosion's sprites were bloody. E still had that grin on his face. There was blood on his eyes and ears. Typhlosion's sprite looked very much like it was in pain. Blood was dripping from his mouth and nose, and flesh was exposed from his forehead. And the flame on his back looked weak. What will Typhlosion do? I clicked the fight command, then chose Flamethrower. Typhlosion is scared. What? I whispered to myself. I didn't know Pokemon would get too scared to fight. E used Bite. The attack dealt much damage to Typhlosion, but it wasn't down yet. There was more blood on it now than before. What will Typhlosion do? Fight. Flamethrower. Typhlosion is scared. I sighed. Again? I whispered. E used Kill. Typhlosion has died. No! I yelled. I was glad my dad wasn't home when I had said that. Claus is out of usable Pokemon. Claus fell victim to E. I was once again confused. What did it mean by fell victim? I was back in the overworld, but I was in what seemed to be Ilex Forest instead of the Pokemon Center. The forest was dark red instead of a normal color green. Bones and rotting flesh were strewn across the area. The little pond was blood red too. At this point, I was feeling sick to my stomach. Then I noticed something. E was right in front of my trainer. E's sprite jumped up and down. E wants you to suffer. I was getting scared to go on with this. I moved my thumb towards the power button. Don't even try it. You're not getting away from me. A voice came through the speakers of my DS. I assumed the voice belonged to E. The screen turned black, and the only sound I could hear sounded like slashing. When the overworld came back, I saw my trainer laying on the ground in a pool of blood. He had an arm and legs and a leg missing, and his eyes were pitch black. I presumed that his eyes were ripped out. E's sprite jumped up and down again. Then a happy icon appeared on E's head. I tried turning the game off again. To my surprise, it worked this time. I sat on my couch speechless and breathed hard for a moment before I turned it back on. I clicked on Soul Silver. Once I was on the DSi menu. After the screen came up, I was immediately taken to the wild encounter. My trainer's sprite was missing his eyes and an arm. I swallowed hard. This greatly disturbed me. Then the opposing Pokemon appeared. E attacked. I noticed that E had shiny Espeon ears, tail, and a jewel. Blood was dripping from the ears, tail, and jewel. Its eyes were red, and also had blood dripping from them. Its cry was like a demonic version of Espeon's cry. The only option was ball. I clicked on it. Claus used one Pokeball. E goes into the ball. It shakes once, and again. Then E breaks out. E doesn't want to go back. E used kill. Oh no, I said quietly to myself. There was a flash of crimson red before a text box came up. E has killed Claus. The screen went back to the overworld. My trainer's sprite wasn't there. E's sprite was now grinning widely. You should have let me evolve. E's voice echoed through my speakers of my DSi. The game turned itself off as E finished talking. I was too terrified to turn it back on. I threw my DS at the wall. Surprisingly, only my DSi game popped out of it. I picked the game up and threw it into the trash can in the corner of my room. I sat there on my couch wondering what had just happened. I turned on my TV and the screen was black. I figured I just left it on the channel I used to play on my Wii. I turned through channels before leaving it on 29. The screen remained black. I sighed and reached the power button. Before I could do that, an eerie voice comes through the speakers. You should have let me evolve.